thank you so much for watching River Talk, brought to you in part by the Jerry Cox Company.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned that so I can...
Oh, why, Jack, would you mention that?
Well, I'd like to mention the original barbecue sauce and the moonshine barbecue sauce. And a few of my mother Fletcher's jellies available at the Jerry Cox Company.
That's right. Free receipt with every order.
This man right here, he's got some in his trunk to take back home with him.
I certainly do, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it.
Oh, I bet you are. Yeah, well, it's going to be an
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah, it will.
One taste of that right there, and you're the mayor of Flavortown.
That's right.
Mayor of
Flavortown.
Flavortown.
I got to remember that.
Yeah. You'll be hallucinating for a week after you. Just don't drink it straight out of the bottle.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Well, good to see you, Ralph. It's been a while.
It has.
You're over at down at the barbershop.
It's good to be back. I'm glad to have been at the barbershop, and we had a good time there.
Sure we did.
We actually had a book signing at Dirty Don's in North Myrtle Beach, and it was outstanding. We had a wonderful time, and actually unusual for my book signings, we sold a bunch of books.
Well, okay. Wow, 2021 is going to be a great year.
I guess I go to book signings and you know I say
maybe
hello to
maybe we ought to have more book signings at bars. I wonder why.
Yeah, take two.
Well, it was. We had a lot of fun with it. Aunt Bonnie was born actually yesterday. Not yesterday. I mean, she was born on the date of yesterday. So we celebrated her birthday at the book signing, and it would have been her 321st birthday.
Wow.
So, and we had a
once
young woman there.
Once you pass 75, it's okay to ask a woman's age.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I guess. We had a young woman there who had the outfit on, and so everyone was saying how well she looked for her age. Since
Don't she have red hair too?
She did.
Okay.
Perfect.
I love it.
Anyway, it was fun.
Well, you're here to really talk about a new book.
Yes. The new book came out in November, actually.
Okay.
And it's a lot of what I do comes from the questions that I had as a young person. Ill-gotten gain, which the first one we talked about. My question was the 30 pieces of silver Judas was given was quite a major talisman to the Christian religion. Without the coins, without the quote betrayal, there really wouldn't be a reason for Christianity because Christ wouldn't have been crucified.
Sure.
So, excuse me. So the question that prompted this book is Judas, first of all, was the only non-Galilean of the disciples.
Okay.
All the rest of them came from Galilee. He came from Judea. And we don't know anything about him until, or through the Bible, until he's a disciple, and yet he's the most trusted disciple because he handled the money. So we've got...
Which scratches my head because there were tax collectors.
Yeah, well...
that were part of, Matthew comes to mind.
Matthew was a tax collector, and...
of course, you didn't really want tax collectors handling the money. That's why they were despised, I think.
Yes.
They took a little bit more. They gave to Caesar, and they kept a little for them. I
well,
think
that was how they got paid, yeah.
Right.
And so the good ones gave what they were supposed to, and the bad ones collected a lot more and kept most of it themselves.
It's a good thing they don't do that today.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah. Well, there's a great lesson,
there's
too,
a wink
to
in
manage
that.
what your resources and being a good steward.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Judas is in charge of the money.
Judas was in charge of the money. And so to me, it just made sense that Jesus and Judas were friends before he became a disciple.
Mm-hmm.
So with with biblical or religious stuff, you look at the Bible and you say, okay, it says there was birth, and then there was 12 years where we don't know anything.
Sure.
Following the birth, Jesus and family went to Egypt, and we know that. Then we know he was next at age 12 in the synagogue when he was accepted into the congregation. They didn't have bar mitzvahs at that time, but it would have been equivalent to a bar mitzvah. And then
now, do you cover in the fact that actually Mary and Joseph had left Jesus in the temple? I mean, they were well on their way on a trip out of town.
They were back home, on their way, almost all the way back home.
And didn't even really discover that he wasn't with them.
Correct.
Wow.
And that's in the book, too.
Okay.
Everything that's biblically related about that is included in the book.
Okay.
So, age 12, he becomes a member of the congregation. And then the next thing we hear about is his ministry at age 30. So here are these two big gaps in information between birth and age 12, nothing. Age 12 to age 30, nothing.
And those are significant.
I think so.
They are.
And so I put a story together that covers both of those time periods. So since we know that Jesus, Mary and Joseph went to Egypt, I have them staying there until Jesus was 12. And they meet because Joseph is working for Judah's father.
Okay.
So the families were there literally together for 12 years.
So they're doing carpentry.
Yeah.
Or woodworking of some sort.
And that was the whole point, is that was the business. So Jesus and Judas grow up together. In order to get a level of intelligence or knowledge, I actually have Jesus and Judas be students of Philo, who was a philosopher that lived in Alexandria, Egypt. So all of this takes place in Alexandria, and then Jesus goes to Jerusalem, and from there, the family, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, go to back to Nazareth. Now, what to me is the key is we know that Jesus was a Jew. He was a practicing Jew. So culturally, there are things that he would do that it is just, to me, hard to understand why people don't recognize that.
Well, sure.
But there's
he was into it like deep, though. Probably
Absolutely.
more so than a kid his age would be.
Absolutely.
And was even accepted. I mean, the whole fact that he was there,
Yeah.
and there was that conversation, I mean, I would have been angry.
Yeah.
But then he says, that, Mom, you should know. I mean,
Yeah.
why would you be surprised by this? But
Yeah.
you touched on Nazareth, and, we have always, I mean, this phrase was uttered earlier today in this room, that you're never a hero in your hometown.
Correct.
And that really stems from Jesus.
And he wasn't. He went back to Nazareth to do his first sermon, and the people said, why should we pay any attention to him? Isn't this the guy that grew up here?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a modernized version of the words, but it's exactly what they said. And his ministry grew out of actually more out of Bethesda, which is on Sea of Galilee, where that's where all the disciples pretty much came from.
Right, sure.
But it's a fun book, but it should be very educational. Two major pieces of information that's included here that I had not seen before is a actual chronology of Jesus' ministry. We get pieces of it in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but they are sort of myopic views. Matthew saw this, Mark saw this, John saw this. And when you look at it, there are times where they jump around, and none of the gospel writers talk about everything. They talk about certain things. So what I did was to create a chronology of events. So if Matthew talked about this and then John talked about the next thing that happened, then I've put them together. I don't keep them segregated by writer.
So you develop the friendship, and you take the liberty to really create Judas, because I mean, as Christians, we miss the boat on this.
We don't.
Because we just we're all over Judas, but that was an intro. I have as much to do with Jesus Christ hanging on that cross as Judas did.
Absolutely, and so do I, and
even
and
you, Deacon.
even
Oh,
the
sure.
deacon.
Even-
I think Judas was a gang member. That's what I think.
Well, I mean,
But
you're
we
not
don't
really
know,
far off of how the Pharisees.
but
really
we
looked
don't
at him.
know,
We don't
and that's
know.
the biggest thing. And yet, if you just use logic, then you're dealing with you're just using logic to say, how would he be Jesus' favored disciple?
Yeah, right. His buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the other part of it,
I'll tell you, look, I don't see any photographs in here from that period, so whatever you did put in here had to be right.
absolutely
No photographs at all.
Yeah.
no
in that
pictures
period.
for you to see.
No.
Well, and then the other part of it that I had never seen before is a real analysis of the Last Supper. And basically, Leonardo da Vinci had it all wrong.
Oh, Leonard.
Nothing.
Leonard.
Wow. Didn't have one Hardee's bag anywhere.
Nothing. Well, that and nothing about what he did was historically correct. They didn't sit at a table; they reclined.
Yeah, reclined.
Right.
They didn't sit at a straight table. They didn't recline at a straight table. They reclined at a C-shaped table. And there was a lot of imagery in who sat where. And, we never look at that.
Well, maybe he
Right.
couldn't get them all in the picture. So if they're sitting like that, to be
yeah,
covering
that's
each other
called,
up.
That's called
Yeah.
artistic
That's right.
license,
Exactly.
I think is what
Exactly.
it's called. But anyway, that's in the book too, and there's let me get a sales pitch for the book if I
Yeah,
may.
I want to watch this sales pitch real good. I might steal it.
Jesus and Judas, Best Friends Forever, is available at Amazon worldwide, and it's also available at independent booksellers in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Europe, the UK, and Australia.
Okay.
So if you live in any of those places and are watching the show, then you can get the book.
Get that book.
Yeah.
This is really, really deep stuff.
That is. That's something.
I love it because, that Judas, I mean, wow.
Yeah. And I think he's much maligned, and probably none of it's appropriate. I think really Jesus asked Judas to betray him. And so betray is a bad word, but
Sounds like a political party.
I think, yeah. but I think there was a reason, and Jesus knew it.
Well, he knew it in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew it. He told
has
them.
to.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Cool.
it's great, and I love the whole subject matter, which is kind of cool.
Good.
Sure enough.
You got to sign my book now.
I'll sign your book.
Would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I will.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph Jarrells.
all
Good
right.
seeing you, friend.
Likewise.
All right, we'll
it's
get you
good
back
to be
down the
here.
road.
It's
Hope you sell lots
always
of the
wonderful.
books. There it
Always wonderful to be on River Talk.
You're one of our favorites.
He is. He's a good guy. Really
Thank
good
you,
guy.
sir.
Good seeing
Yeah.
you. Hey to your lovely wife, Sybil.
She is right here with
Hey,
us,
Sybil.
and she is lovely.
Isn't she lovely? Hey, we'll be right back with more River Talk coming.